How do you do, my fellow Minecrafters? Today I am in the city of Sequoia in my little apartment here in the sky. This is my glass box in the sky. Anyway, this building is based on one in the West End in Vancouver, but I'm going to be answering some questions because in my last video I pinned a comment that said, hey, I want you guys to ask me some questions for a Q&A. So today we're going to be going through that. The first question is a question that I get all the time, and there's not exactly a simple answer. It's a very big question, and the question is, how do you not get burnt out and not lose inspiration? That's a tough one. Realistically, the answer depends on what your role is, and I'm assuming, since I build Minecraft cities on this YouTube channel, I'm assuming that you do as well. But there's a different answer to that question depending on if you are the director of the project or if you are a builder. In my particular position in this city, the city of Sequoia, I am a director, which means I am ultimately responsible for the development of the city and to keep the builders happy. If you are a builder in a city, then it is not your responsibility to continue the development of the city, but rather you build when you have the opportunity to do so. Now, I'm going to be using Sequoia to answer a bunch of these questions because this is the big project and pretty much the only project that I'm working on right now. But we can see the neighborhood of East Village over here, which is approximately 12 city blocks. Starts over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, with this park being 2 right in the middle. Generally, I recommend that a neighborhood is approximately 12 city blocks, usually 4 by 3. However, to answer this question of how not to get burnt out and to lose inspiration, the idea is if you are the one building the Minecraft city, you need to put a limit on your city. Otherwise, if you have an expanse of terrain that never ends, then of course your project's never going to end, and of course you're going to get burnt out. Another key point is you really don't want to make your project so that it feels like you have to build. You want to give yourself the opportunity to have different creative endeavors within that project. So as you can see down here, a lot of these buildings are actually templates, and you can see that because I haven't actually finished the roofs, and they're all identical. Now, the interior is all identical as well. It's very, very basic. Over here, you do have what is called a shear wall. Well, I don't know if it's called this one in this particular case. Definitions vary. But inside of here, you do have a staircase. And that's what pokes out up top here. I have a door for each one. And then you can kind of see the stairs poking out right down there. But the idea with this template is I built one template. And then, actually, hold on. Let me show you the original. This one's the original building. And essentially what I did is once this one was done, I copy and pasted it right beside. Then what I did, you can see I changed the materials. I changed this stair above the window. Instead of being like that, I took this one and then just put it upside down like that. The windows themselves are pretty much identical. I added this fire escape on the outside. The bottom here is actually quite different compared to this one. This one is, I would imagine, a little restaurant or something. I never actually got around to finishing it. But this one is purely residential. So the purpose of the building changes as well. And then what I did once this one was complete, I stacked it one more. I, once again, changed up these stairs. You can see the windows are still identical. And then I changed up this thing up here. This is called a cornice. And the purpose of a cornice is to prevent rain from getting on your facade. Now, you might be wondering, hey, wait a second, Matt, if it's raining and it's also windy, isn't rain still going to get on this facade anyway? The answer is yes. But since you have a little thing that sticks out like that, it is actually going to prevent a substantial amount of rain from touching your building. Ideally, if you can keep water away from your building, in general, that's a good practice. Now you can see that I spent quite a bit of time going a little bit overboard. But if you look closely at these buildings, they are pretty well close to the same. Just with, again, those minor differences. Sometimes I removed the cornice because I was using Google Maps and I saw that they did that. Not exactly sure why you'd opt for a flat facade up at the top rather than this cornice sticking out, but I don't know. That's a question for somebody else. Now, the reason I talk about templates so much is that you can see most of these along this street, actually all of this street right here along this city block is templates. And then most of them over here as well, but you will notice that this building is not a template. This was built by my friend Jeff. So the key idea with these templates and not getting burned out within your Minecraft city, you need to use your templates, but especially on the corners. So on intersections like this right here, maybe this one, this one. This one is a template that has been slightly modified, but you want to allow yourself the flexibility when you want to build something in a more creative manner. For example, if you have 3 people named Matt that are working on the city of Sequoia, maybe you want a club that is only for Matts. But as we fly around, we can see this theme in action. Again, this is a custom one. This is obviously not a template. It is significantly larger. And this is actually based on one in East Village, New York City, approximately. But I liked having a little balcony out here, or a terrace or something. I still haven't learned. I'll show you another few examples. You have some custom ones over here. And then everything over here is custom as well, which makes for some very, very cool intersections. Now, another key part of not burning out when you're building a Minecraft city is really to have a lot of variety in the types of buildings. So this, for example, this is a renovated old building that's actually a parking garage. So I believe this was built by Beppis. Oh, there we go. Built by Beppis, who also built this one, and this one. And a whole bunch of... Actually, did you build all of these? I built this one, but I think the rest of these are built by Beppis, including those ones right there. Even within your templates, I love to include builds like this one here, which I believe was in Sequoia episode 4. But essentially, it's the same size, and it serves the same function. But this one is a singular residence. This is called the Winona Residence, which I thought was pretty cool. And there's lots of stuff up here. A nice double floor opening with a skylight. And then you have a nice rooftop up here, and a little barbecue down here that I had some help with, and a fish that I am about to eat. It also includes a nice view, which I also do appreciate. So that kind of answers the question of how not to get burnout or lose inspiration. The inspiration part is a little bit harder because it really depends on the person. My way of gaining inspiration, I love to go on Google Maps and use the globe view so that I can see it in 3D. I like to explore on Street View as well, where it has the 360 pictures, pretty much across all of Canada and the United States. Sometimes I will take inspiration from other places in the world, but in general, I take inspiration from North American cities. So that might kind of answer your question for one neighborhood, but then you get to the question of, okay, what about the rest of the city? Because there's a lot of empty space between here, and I know it's outside of my render distance. We'll see it slowly loading in. But way, way, way over here behind these floating skyscrapers, hold on, let me fly over one sec. We can start to see the neighborhood of Point Grey, which is considerably different compared to the neighborhood of East Village and all of those skyscrapers, which are now outside of my render distance. But the big question is, how do you not lose inspiration by connecting them? But you have to remember, connecting them is the point. Because now that we have this much more residential neighborhood over here, it is a lot lower density compared to East Village. It's still relatively high density with these houses are, they're pretty close together. Since you have one area here of one style and then another area way over there of another style, the challenge becomes connecting it. Now, if you were just to start that one part of the city and then expand outwards forever, of course it's going to feel like forever. Of course you're going to get burnt out. You're never going to finish that city. But if you have 1, 2, maybe even 3 or 4, sometimes 5 or 6 different areas of your city in distinctly different styles that aren't too far apart, now you have a goal to connect them. Now, if it's just you building compared to if you have a team of 15 builders, it's obviously going to take more time if you're just doing it by yourself. It also depends on the level of detail that you're going for. It depends on if you're using a mod, which adds more detail. So if you know that it's going to take you longer to build, then you probably want to have those 2 neighborhoods a little bit closer together. But really the key to not burning out in a Minecraft city is to have a lot of variety and then have an end point, because expanding outwards forever will not work. It also needs to be challenging. You can build a city in a flat world, but I've done that quite a few times and it does get boring after a while. Now, maybe your city or maybe your computer can't handle something that looks like this. I am currently using an RTX 2060. I can run this with 16 gigabytes of RAM, but I've recently upgraded to 32. So it is definitely possible to use all of this. And these are Bliss shaders, by the way. But if whatever machine you're playing Minecraft on can't necessarily make it look this pretty, then you may want to consider a smaller area so that everything is within your render distance. I hope that sort of answers your question. I know there is a lot more to that. I am addressing it in City Design 101. That is a work in progress, but I'm still figuring that part out myself. Question number 2, why are high-rise bases so hard to make? Well, if we go back to the neighborhood of East Village and then fly over to the skyscrapers, I haven't exactly named this area yet, but basically the idea with skyscraper bases, what you're going to want to do to actually make it happen, go on Google Maps, go on Google Street View. Actually, you know what? Let's do that right now. Let's go check it out. Okay, so here we are in Vancouver, British Columbia. This is where I live, and we are in Google Maps. So by default, it's going to look like this, but if we hover over the layers, go to More, and then we click Globe View. And what I like to do, I also like to remove the labels. Now you can go like this, and if you press and hold left shift, and then you click and drag, all of a sudden everything's in 3D. So let's find some examples, and let's talk about some high-rise bases. Okay, let's take a look at this one right here. So it has sort of 3 distinct sections. So this, I mean, it kind of looks like a paperclip, or not a paperclip, what do you call it? A staple? I knew that. It looks like 3 different staples. So 1, 2, and 3. And on the bottom here, you have this rectangular base. So if we scroll in here, now we can see what the base looks like. And then we can see those upper sections as well. But this base, essentially, it is governed by the shape of the lot that is provided to the developer by the city. So we'll take a look at the more thin side down here. You can see you have an intersection, and the actual lot would extend right up until about here, but they did allow some room for a cantilever over top. And in Vancouver, it does rain quite a bit, especially in the fall and winter. So having this extra rain protection on top is pretty great. And it also allows them to extend their building footprint a little bit so that they can get a little bit more floor space. But essentially with high-rise bases, after you lay out your plots and also take into account where you want your alleyways, for your high-rise bases, you pretty much want to fill out the entire lot, because with high rises, the whole purpose of a high rise is the value of the land is so high that you want to maximize however many floors. Well, sorry, not the number of floors, the number of floor space or the number of units, depending on what type of building it is. So naturally a question is, hey, if you're trying to maximize the amount of floor space in this building, why would you not just build the entire tower up to this corner instead of having it clearly set back from right here? Then it goes back a little bit. Actually, hold on. If I zoom out, oh, hello, skyscraper. You can see that there's a little patch of greenery up top. And then your question is, hey, why would you not just bring it all the way up here? Well, that's where your urban planning guidelines come into play. And I'm guessing for this particular skyscraper, it has something to do with the amount of sunlight that is let down onto the street. So actually, if we zoom way out, we are going to go to a city that everybody knows. We're going to go check out New York City, because this is the original city that has all of the fancy setbacks, as you can see right here. So this is Lower Manhattan, and this building right here, I forget the name of it, but this is the reason why buildings have setbacks, because I believe it was in this street. You see this down here? I don't know what year it was, but this street was so dark, it never got any sunlight throughout the entire year. So I believe, I didn't do any research on this, but I believe that is why New York City introduced setbacks. So if we zoom out, even adjacent to this building, we have another building that does include those setbacks so that you do get more sunlight on the street. And that's very, very common, especially, well, pretty much throughout the entire city. But if we go up here into Midtown, is this Park Avenue? Which one's Park Avenue? Hello, Park Avenue, where are you? Oh, it's this one. Here we go. So as we go up here, we can see that this newer skyscraper does follow it right here. Let's go into Street View, check it out. See, there you go. You have some setbacks. More setbacks right here. Not every building follows it. I guess it depends on the height, but essentially this is creating an urban wall. So there's a building on the left and a building on the right, but they match up right there in the middle. And if we jump back into the city of Sequoia, we can see the exact same thing that is happening with these towers. Setbacks here. You have another one over here that also has setbacks. And then, of course, you have the Chrysler building, which includes setbacks as well. Now, back to your question about why high-rise bases are so hard to figure out. I'm going to give you a couple of ideas that you could put in the base of your high-rise. So, if you are in an office district like this, and you have an office building, all of these workers, not all of them, but a fair few of them are probably going to drive to work. Hopefully, they're going to take public transit, but if you're city does have roads, then yeah, there's a chance that people drive. So what you may want to include, you don't have to, but what you may want to include is an opening to a parking garage that goes underground. Or if you don't want to include that, maybe you can include a parking garage elsewhere in your city. Now, since all of these office workers have stomachs and need to eat, during lunchtime, it is probably a good idea that you have some maybe corporate idea of a restaurant. I don't know what that means, but I don't know, you guys know what Freshie is? Basically that. Basically, if you have a mix of types of either restaurants or spots for takeout, like even fast food, something that you can get a bite to eat in 10 minutes, or if you want to take a client to a very, very fancy lunch, maybe you have some places like that as well. Now, you probably want to include some convenience stores because these workers on their way home may need to grab something. Maybe you want to include just a little grocery store, probably nothing too big, especially if you don't have a lot of residential units around. But if you do have any residential units around, then yes, you definitely want to have a grocery store somewhere nearby. If we jump back into Midtown Manhattan, so if I zoom into a random spot right here, let's see what they have. Chipotle's a good one. I like Chipotle. They're not sponsoring this, but they should. Oh yeah, definitely include a lot of banks as well, especially on corners. You can include little food stands. Let's see, what else? Future home of private banking. Okay. Surprise, there's banking in Manhattan. There you go. Little restaurant up there, I think. For every use, you are going to have a lobby of some sorts. This seems to be pretty fancy. It says Mutual of America. I don't know if that's a bank or if that's an insurance company, but essentially, if the type of company in your skyscraper or in your high-rise makes a lot of money, then you probably want to make it look pretty fancy. And back in Sequoia, this is a building that was built by Tibber, I do believe. But if we go inside, you can see that he has furnished, I believe, all of this. Now, this is a lot of work. I don't know how you did that. I don't even know what that is. But lots of different shops here. This is a little bit more of a lobby that connects some of the shops. A clothing store in here. That's pretty cool. Here's an idea. Whoop. I am in spectator mode, so I can fly through walls. You have some changing rooms over here. Oh, cool. It seems to be like a cafeteria or food court with these different vendors, and then some spots to eat, which is a very, very great use considering that this building and most of the buildings around are, again, indeed offices. Now, here's a trick. If you have this really, really big building, which does include some elevators and stairs in the middle, you do need to access that, and I would highly recommend that you figure out how to make at least a lobby to connect it. Oh, this is cool. Interesting. It's like a library, maybe? There you go. That's another idea. You can make a library. But you don't actually have to furnish the entire first floor. Since it is quite a big building, in terms of the volume of even just one floor, what you could do is if we fly in here, basically what you could do is instead of going all the way back, oh, is this the back of the building? There you go. So see, they actually followed this trick. So there is a wall right here. I'm inside the wall right now. But on the left-hand side, you could furnish that. And on the right-hand side, you could essentially just block it off as long as you maintain access to your stairs and elevators that actually bring you up into the rest of the building. So sorry about all this flying through walls here. But here you go. You have your elevators that bring you all the way up. But as long as you maintain that access, you can pretty much just block off the rest of it. And as long as there's no windows, or if you have windows and then you basically just black them out, that works. That's fine. Because nobody really expects you to furnish every single part of a very, very dense skyscraper city. That is way too much work. Okay, question number 3. How do you figure out what scale to build your city at? So I have been very adamant about building at a 1.5 to 1 scale, essentially meaning that everything in the city is 50% larger compared to real life, assuming that one block is 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. I prefer to use this scale because I feel like it's a lot easier to make some quite interesting details. I feel like it's a lot easier to make windows since, you know, Minecraft is made of blocks, and oftentimes you want to build things in subdivisions of 1 meter, which it does. Oh, hello Tibber, how you doing? But when you scale everything up to be 50% larger, it just gives you a little bit more room to work with, and then you can build stuff that looks like this. Versus if you were to build at 1 to 1, instead of being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 wide, it's going to be a little closer to this. And if you still want to have 3 windows, now your windows are going to have to be maybe 1 block wide instead of 2, and then the proportions are going to look a little bit off. It will technically take you less time to build at 1 to 1, but for the quality and detail if you really, really want to make a push for the architectural side, I would recommend building a little bit larger. Once you get up to 2-to-1, that becomes quite a bit of work because compared to 1-to-1, hello, Tibber, he doesn't know I'm recording. But when you build at a 2-to-1 scale, compared to 1-to-1, you're actually building 8 times the volume. So if you have a block, this is at 1-to-1 scale. It is 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. However, if you build at a 2-to-1 scale, all of a sudden this 1 by 1 by 1 becomes 2 by 2 by 2. So now you have 8 blocks, and that is going to be much more work. And I definitely would not recommend that if you are in survival. That's going to take you way too long, unless you're really up for the challenge, but I'll leave that up to you. But if you're building at a 1.5-to-1 scale, it does bring it down just a little bit. But if you're not concerned about the volume of blocks, then I think it should be okay. But I like 1.5-to-1. Now, here's something interesting. If we fly way up here and I turn my settings up, we'll just wait for that to load. My frames are going to drop substantially. I do apologize in advance. However, to illustrate this point of a 1.5-to-1 scale, something that we actually do in the city of Sequoia, for some of the boats that are out in the water, since our mountains aren't actually that big, we have the boats scaled at 1-to-1, except if they are docked at a port. In that case, they would be at 1.5-to-1. But we'll fly all the way out here to Warp Point Gray. Again, you can get a free download on my website, alpine1.co. Go to Discover Sequoia. There will be a free map download. As of today, October 13th, this version of the map is up to date. But you will see that these boats way out here, which were built by MiG-31, they are at a 1-to-1 scale. And if we fly up and then turn back down to the southwest, these ones over here, I believe, are scaled up to 1.5-to-1. So if you were to go in these boats and explore them, it will be at the same scale as the city itself. Now, the reason that I want to leave these ones at a 1-to-1 scale is because of the mountains behind it. Now, these mountains, the tallest mountain, I believe, is about 375 blocks tall. There's a lot more mountains back there that don't seem to want to load. You can kind of see one starting way, way, way back there. But I'll leave that for now. But I don't want to have these boats to be too big. Because if you have distant horizons like I do, and you're standing on the beach, you're looking out here. If you have these boats a lot larger, instead of going to there, it's going to go up to maybe about right there. And then it's going to cover half the mountain, which I really don't want to do. I hope that answered your question. I hope it provided a little bit of clarity, but feel free to ask away in the comments. Okay, my frames are going to drop a little bit here, but I toured this unit 2 videos ago, and 3 videos ago I built it, so make sure to go check that out. Let's end the video right up here. It's a nice little spot. You can see a nice little view of the mountains. Oh, there's a little boat sticking out. Whoa, that's zoomed in. That looks pretty cool. All right, if you like this video, click like. If you really like it, click subscribe. By clicking like, it just helps me reach more people who may also enjoy this content. But thank you so much for watching. My name's Matt. You're watching Alpine.